Superman and Lois Season 3 Episode 11 is here, and we're getting closer and closer to the final. However, this episode titled Complications is the last episode for the Bruno Mannhiem arc, and we are finally going into Lex Luthor stuff next episode, which will come out on June 20th because it's taking a week hiatus. Lex looks like he's gonna be one hell of a villain, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about from the end of this episode. Well, one thing in particular anyways. So we'll talk about that and episode 12 trailer. So let's jump into my Superman and Lois episode 11 breakdown and review. Welcome to NonStopAntonio, where I talk about everything nerdy. I love Marvel, DC, and anime, and if you do too, I hope you enjoy this video. This episode was all about family.
I don't have friends, I got family.
Because they really dove into that theme during the entire episode and how it was playing out. Especially since it was showing each family worrying about someone within it. Both the heroes and villains went through similar things in their stories, just by different means. Let's start off with the Cushing-Lang family because they have to deal with their daughter, Sarah, dealing with her mental health because of Jordan. Mostly because Jordan says he wished he never loved her, and she thought it was just them getting into a fight. They were arguing, but Jordan doubled down on it and kept saying it, making her just internally combust. She's upset, she got a DUI, which she feels like she's now ruined her life because of it, and she's starting to spiral because when we first met her in season 1, she had a lot of counseling and everything because she had to deal with depression a lot, and now it's starting to come back up again. And I really liked how they dealt with this story because it showed that both Kyle and Lana were ready to act. They're ready to help their daughter. They don't want to go through another incident like they did before. And they want to make sure their daughter is healthy and taken care of. Which I really liked how Kyle was able to connect with her by saying that when he was a teenager, he went through a lot of hard times, how he took up drinking and he became an alcoholic because every time he drank, he felt like he wasn't that much of a screw up. And that what helped him was helping the city and having his family, giving himself a purpose. So that's what Sarah needs. And by the end of the episode, she gets a job at the diner. So I really like how they're dealing with her character. I really hope Jordan's not that much of an ass to her anymore because I understand the kid's hurt. He feels betrayed, but she's still like the one person who's been there for him, has helped him out. Even though she has done a little bit of selfish things and said some bad shit, he said some bad stuff as well. No, that's just that teenage drama there. Then we got the Kent Lane family with everything going on with Lois Lane and her surgery. I really liked how they had like the friend dinner where John and Lana came over to have food, put Lois in a good mood and have like a good time before she goes into the surgery where there's a possibility for complications. But it was great to see how the whole family was there together and worrying about her. Her dad's worrying about how the surgery is going to go and what's going to happen for it, and everyone just being there for her. I really like how they dealt with Jordan because he starts to have a panic attack and his x-ray vision comes unlocked, and I like how they portrayed that on screen too, because it looked visually cool how he was able to see everything and showing us how the x-ray vision worked. And even him helping his mom while everything's going wrong with the city, where a tank's about to fall over in the room, and he runs in there, makes sure it stands up and goes back. Protecting his mom to make sure everything goes smoothly so that nothing bad can happen to her. And I really like the moment we got from this part too, because Jonathan and Jordan have a really nice moment where Jonathan's like telling him to look at him, just breathe, helping him go through this panic attack. And I really like how they dealt with both anxiety and depression this episode with Sarah and Jordan, because they both have their own mental health stuff to deal with. And I like how they have those elements in the show, because a lot of people can relate to that, having anxiety or depression and trying to work their way through some of the problems they may have in their life. Then we had the Mannheim family, where this was a very sad story. Again, they showed that the villains aren't really horrible people. They're not complete monsters. They have feelings and they seem human. Where I think this is where Lex Luthor is not going to feel that way. And they're trying to show that Bruno Mannhiem wasn't that bad, but Lex Luthor is going to be so much worse. Especially because during this section, Peia was losing control of her powers because of this Bizzaro serum that Bruno put into her. So both Bruno and Matteo in the end are going to have some guilt because Matteo put it in his mother to save her life, which ended up just destroying her. And Bruno was so determined to have this cure to save his wife, where in the end, it's his fault that she died. I mean, she was dying before, but she suffered this time. Before, she wasn't really suffering that much, but this just added so much strain on her body that it made it so much worse. And you could see the pain in both Matteo and Bruno, seeing how it's just a father and a son trying not to lose his wife and his mother. And I really like how Peia made the hard choice to leave her family, to get away from them, because she yelled and killed the dude. She straight up boys them. The guy splattered all over the place. I was like, holy shit, this is the CW, and they just pulled something straight out of the boys, which was a pretty cool moment. I did not expect that to happen, but it shows how strong her powers could be. But it led to her leaving because she has to protect her family, because what's stopping her from accidentally doing that again, but to her son or her husband. There were just so many emotions running high during this section, because Matteo runs off to go try to find something to save his mom, to contact someone for help, and Bruno kept saying, I can fix this. I can fix this. So determined to be the one to fix it. I'm trying to have to realize that he can't, and Peia being like, no, you can't fix this. it's time, I have to leave. And I really like how they dealt with that, because it shows how focused Bruno is on trying to be the one to do everything instead of just asking for help. But before we get into the next part where Matteo gets help, I want to talk about the Irons family, because you have Natalie, who's been trying to get a hold of Matteo, and she left this little device in their penthouse so that he can reach her. And even John's like, no, you have to give up on him. You can't keep trying to go for Matteo. He threw his life away when he helped his parents. Trying to make her realize that she can't wait around for someone for the rest of her life, because he could go to jail, or she might never see him again because he might be on the run. He doesn't want her waiting for a ghost, because he knows how that feels, because he felt like that when he lost Lois. And I like how they dealt with that, because it's a father trying to protect his daughter from some of the hardships that he went through. And in the end, they had some pretty interesting stuff that happened there, because when Matteo finds the device and Natalie goes to see him, she immediately trusts him. But then you have Bruno coming in pointing guns, and it shows how determined John is to protect his daughter, because he just comes in and whoops all their asses and gets ready to kill Bruno. But he doesn't, because of Matteo, and they kind of realize how much shit's going on. They just see the hurt husband and son worrying about their wife and mother. But I really like the moment that when Peia did die, you had John and Natalie hold a hand, because they both understand where Matteo and Bruno are going through right now, because they lost their Lois as well. Natalie has lost a mother and John has lost a wife. So they kind of have this mutual respect in the end, where John kind of understands Bruno because he's lost someone that he deeply cared about too. But speaking of Pia's death, let's talk about what happened during that, because when she's losing control, I really like when Clark came up to help her, because he's like, let me help you, you have to let go. There's no point in suffering, because your family would not want you to suffer. And I really like how that played out, because it's Superman showing his humanity again. Then she does let go, and he flies up and she blows up in the sky, which I'm shocked didn't knock Superman down, because that was a pretty big wave of energy and he was having a hard time getting to her in the first place. But I like how she whispered in his ear, saying that she loved Bruno and Matteo forever and always, just like a nice touching final message for a husband and son. It really made this monster, in a sense, seem human, seem just like a wife that loved her husband and a mother that loved her son. Again, shining a light that these villains are human too. They have feelings, they still care about their family, they're still doing everything they can to protect their own family as well, which is definitely leading into Lex Luthor, who has been described as the devil, showing that he might not have any humanity for a human, someone that is complete opposite, who's willing to do these despicable evil acts. And I think it's going to be some pretty badass shit when we get to it. But before we get into anything Lex Luthor, let's talk about the ending to the episode, because it wrapped up all the stories pretty nicely. At the end there, we have John giving respects to Bruno by giving him a nice little nod, because he understands exactly what Bruno's going through, because he lost Lois. Sarah gets a waitress job so that she can have purpose and find her way through this world. Lois gets out of her surgery and she seems good. Kyle apologizes for Chrissy for getting mad at her for not telling him the truth. He did apologize to her for overreacting, and he definitely did overreact at the beginning of the episode, because it's like, why should she be the one to give up Superman's secret? That's something for him to say, not her. And I like how they dealt with that, and I'm still surprised that Kyle didn't have more of like an anger towards anyone else about, hey, why didn't you tell me you were Superman? Or why didn't you tell me Clark was Superman this entire time? Like, why are you guys keeping secrets from me? He seemed kind of giddy about it, like, oh, this kid I knew in high school is actually the strongest man on the planet. And I'm interested to see how they interact more though. Then we had Bruno at the DOD with Matteo, saying that he'll admit to everything so that Matteo could have a better life, and that's the deal. And I like how he asked, as long as you guys can give Matteo the life he deserves. John says he'll do it, and even Bruno being like, I know exactly what kind of man you are, knowing that John will help his son because he's a good man. So it's kind of like that mutual respect in the end, where they were at each other's throats trying to kill each other, and now there's this mutual respect. Bruno just went through a shit ton of stuff with his wife dying, but understands that John is still a good person, because he will do anything to protect his family. But with Bruno admitting to all his crimes, that means Lex Luthor is about to get out of prison, and shit's gonna go down. Because in the episode trailer, we see that Lex is getting out, and he's coming for Superman, because Superman and Lois put him in jail. And I'm very interested to seeing what happens next, because there's only 2 episodes left in the season. Lex is about to cause some shit in the next 2 episodes, which I'm really hoping it's not like this major cliffhanger for the season, and then we don't get a season 4. But on top of it, with the ending, we did get Bizzaro fully awake, but he sounds like a freaking zombie. Bizzaro is awake, and he's gonna cause some shit. I've been saying this for the last few episodes, where I definitely think that Lex Luthor is gonna control Bizzaro, or get him to work for him in some way. But because in the comics, Bizzaro was created by Lex Luthor at one point, it would make sense for that to happen. However, in this, Bizzaro was not created by Lex, because we know he came from another Earth, but the way everything's been going down, how he's been resurrected, how he sounds like a zombie, I think there will be a way where Lex somehow gets his little grummy little hands all over him and turns him into a weapon for destruction. And I'm very interested to seeing how they play this now, because Bizzaro's awake, Lex Luthor is coming, everything's gonna go down really quickly, because the next episode is titled Injustice. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait 2 weeks for the next episode though, so we'll have to wait 2 weeks to get Injustice, and I'm very intrigued for it, because the next 2 episodes feel like they're gonna be really good, especially because Lex Luthor is gonna be one hell of a villain to fight, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really liking Superman and Lois. Again, I feel like this season is less Superman focused and more Lois focused, especially because Lex Luthor is going to be going after Lois because she's the reporter that put him in jail. What did you think of this episode of Superman and Lois? Are you excited for the next one? And did you see any Easter eggs that I might have missed? Because I feel like these last few episodes haven't had a lot of them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button to keep up to date with my DC breakdowns. I'll be doing one for the Flash movie next week. And when Doom Patrol eventually comes back, I will continue that series as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.